All right, good afternoon, everyone. Nice to have you all here. So I'm John Fisher. I'm the employability lead at Purple Beard. I recognise a few of you guys in the room, so nice to see you here. Perfect. So what we're going to look at today, as Chris said, leveraging your transferable skills to a tech role. This is the agenda for today. So we're going to look at what are transferable skills, a little look at what skills are in demand, have a little look at why companies value transferable skills, then how you can then showcase your transferable skills to get a role in tech, and then skills in action, look a little bit at a couple of case studies and demonstrate how people have kind of come on courses and then leverage their skills to kind of move into a new role. I shouldn't have done that. So what I'll do is after each section, I'll pause and see if there are any questions, and I'll pick up any questions as we go through. And then if you want to keep them to the end, we can. But after each section, I'll just kind of see if there are any questions in the chat. Okay, so what are transferable skills? Examining transferable skills. So I think before we kind of go into it, looking at transferable skills, so technical skills can be taught to anyone. So if they're willing to learn and you've got a growth mindset, anyone can learn anything. You know, anyone can learn to code, anyone can learn to become a data analyst, but you have to have the willingness to kind of learn that skill. Your transferable skills are kind of the skills that you build up over time. They're more intangible, but they are really valuable to employers. So if you're kind of changing career, then like those skills you built up over time are really kind of important to employers, because at junior level, quite often employers will hire for fit rather than technical skill, sometimes over technical skills. So if you fit in with the culture and the organization of the team, then they're more likely to kind of take you on for that rather than your technical skills, because they can teach you your technical skills. So they're, broadly speaking, transferable skills are the skills that you pick up in one role, and then you can seamlessly transfer them to a new role. They're not industry specific. So, you know, if you pick up a transferable skill in one, you can do it in hospitality, in data, in any industry really. And you get them through your kind of education, work experience, work history, volunteering, sports, interpersonal skills. You build up your transferable skills with all of these things. So as I said, they're built up over time, not kind of the teachable skills, the tech skills. And I guess on that, just before I kind of move to the next point, like hopefully everyone kind of understands the difference between what a hard skill and a soft skill is. Like a hard skill is something that you're taught, very clearly taught, and then you kind of get that, and a soft skill is something that you build up over time. Another way of looking at this, so there's an author, Michelle R. Weiss, her book, Long Life Learning. She classifies these transferable skills as human plus skills. So they're the skills that you possess that are valuable to any employer. And the example there is if you're an excellent communicator, that's just as valid in any role you're ever going to do. If you're good at communicating, any employer will value that and will want you to kind of utilize that skill in that role. So kind of it's important to remember that. And how you can leverage that skill in kind of any role that you do. It's also important to remember that they can be soft and hard skills. So although when we talk about transferable skills, generally you're talking about kind of soft skills. Something like if you're really strong in Excel, you're an Excel wizard, as it were. That can be used in kind of a range of roles. So sometimes transferable skills are hard skills as well. You know, something like a front-end developer, a coding language isn't necessarily useful in lots of different roles, but yeah, it's kind of good to kind of bear that in mind in terms of there are soft and hard skills that can be transferable, but generally, mainly today, we're going to be focusing on kind of those soft skills. Have a quick look, see if there's any questions that come in. Oh, good, cool. Okay, so move to the next slide. So what we're going to look at now is just a few different transferable skills, just so that everyone kind of gets a good understanding. The list we're going to look at, it's not an exhaustive list, doesn't cover every single transferable skill. I would recommend at some point you kind of look at all the different ones, so when you're kind of looking at which ones you have, it can be useful. But just a few of the kind of the more common ones. We kind of touched on communication. If you're a good communicator And that's like written communication, verbal communication, presenting, active listening, public speaking. All of those things are part of a communication skill. And if you're a good communicator, then that's a really powerful transferable skill. I guess a good example of that is, say, for example, if your background is in teaching, but you want to transfer to kind of a career as a business analyst, you're obviously a very good communicator because you're something you're doing every day. So if you're going to apply to be a business analyst, okay, I know that communication is going to be a really key part of my job, and I am a good communicator. Another one is problem solving. Like, so problem solving, when we talk about problem solving, it's not just seeing there's a problem, it's identifying, being able to identify kind of what the root cause of the problem is, and then how you're going to solve that problem. And again, you know, these are the kind of really key transferable skills that people value and want in their employees. An example of problem solving, you know, you might have, if you're an accountant and you've kind of improved the filing system, that's improved efficiency, that's a problem solving. And again, I think like when we're kind of talking about transferable skills, start getting in the back of your mind when you think you've used them, because a lot of these are something that people do kind of on an everyday in the workplace, and how you can highlight those. We'll talk about that later, but yeah, something to bear in mind. Adaptability. So when we're talking about adaptability, it's kind of being able to kind of pivot to kind of different projects or different roles. Like if you work for a startup, if you ever worked for a startup, for example, you know that like you have to kind of be really adaptable to the needs of the business. So that's kind of a really valuable skill for employers. So it might be that you kind of get hired to work on one project and then a new contract comes in. So you have to pivot to that quite quickly. And like I said, that's a really key transferable skill to have. Teamwork. When we're looking at teamwork, it's not just being on a team, it's being part of a team. And how are you part of that team? What do you do in that team? In part of my role, I see a lot of CVs, and I would say about 90% of the CVs that I see have on it something along the lines of, in the summary or the profile at the top, I work well as an individual or as part of a team. And you probably do, but that's not telling me anything about you. It's not telling me how you've used that skill. So if you want to highlight that teamwork transferable skill in your summary, you might want to say something along the lines of, in my last role as part of a small team, we improved the processes of the business to improve productivity by 10%. You're kind of giving something tangible, and the reader then can see what you've done as part of a team rather than just, I work well as a part of a team. But, you know, that's something that any company wants, is someone that can fit into a team. Unless you're working as a sole trader, you're going to be part of a team. Leadership. Obviously, leadership is a really key skill and a valued skill. If we're talking about kind of going in a junior role, if you're changing careers, you might not be kind of in a leadership role at the start, but being able to mentor other people in the team is really key. And if the organization is growing, you're kind of building your skills, then taking on a leadership role might be something that comes up later. But yeah, it's kind of a really good, strong skill to have, leadership. And being able to kind of lead teams, get projects done, share goals, those kind of really kind of come under leadership. When we come to time management, being able to demonstrate that you can get projects done, you know how to manage your own time, you're organized, you can, you know, you might want to kind of bring stuff in like time management techniques that you use, like time boxing, those kind of things. And you can really kind of demonstrate how your time management skills are good, and reach goals, perform best that you can, help the organization to kind of achieve its goals. Last one on there is creativity, which again is kind of quite a key skill in terms of thinking outside the box, innovation, looking at things differently, alongside of being able to kind of, you know, if you're working as like a front end developer, for example, being able to have like create kind of nice looking web pages and stuff. So that's kind of, again, something that transfer into tech roles quite seamlessly. Just gonna have a quick stop and look at for any questions. I've got someone saying they can't hear me. Is that okay? Is everyone having problems with the audio?
I can hear you clearly, John. I'm not sure if anyone else is having any issues.
You're saying you can hear me, Kristen?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. So if there's anyone that's having any issue, please let us know.
Okay, cool.
But however, the session will be recorded and we will share the recording with you at the end of it. So you will be able to catch up with any part that you may have missed. But again, if you have any issues, please let us know.
Listen. Okay, so we kind of looked at they're the kind of transferable skills. Like I said, that's not an exhaustive list. There's many transferable skills. But they're some of the kind of main ones. And as we move to the next slide, you can kind of see why I've touched on those ones. So what this is showing is this was from a IT skills gap report of this year. It's a UK report conducted by Forbes. And 93% of businesses said there was an IT skills gap currently in the UK. But not just an IT skills gap, also a soft skills gap. So these are the ones they've identified. So 55% of the respondents said there's a problem-solving skills gap, people with analytical critical thinking. 52% of respondents said adaptability, willingness to learn and change. 52% talked about a lack of teamwork, collaboration, cooperation. 40% communication, and then 28% leadership, vision, and motivation. And if we think back to the last slide, they kind of a lot of those cropped up on that last slide. So actually, if you have some of those transferable skills already, they are skills that are in demand. So how you can kind of showcase those to get into a role is really key. And like I say, I'll kind of later on in the presentation, we'll look at how you can do that. Alongside that, the second source there, it's not the infographic isn't here, but Manpower did kind of a global survey. And again, looking at where the talent shortages were in terms of soft skills. And that was things like reliability and self-discipline, creativity and originality, reasoning and problem solving, and reliance and adaptability. So adaptability has cropped up kind of a lot in kind of the UK and across the world. So actually, I think as industry changes, it's really important to kind of have that skill. Why do like the importance of kind of soft transferable skills in tech industry? As I said, it's kind of having employees that have got that really good foundation. So if you're changing career, you've got kind of a work history. You've got a wealth of experience that you can bring into a role and hit the ground running almost. So you come in, you've learned a new skill, you've learned Python, for example, come into a new role, you fit into the team, you've got that skill set, and then you start kind of driving stuff forward and working straight away. And it helps collaboration, communication, all those things that are really important to businesses. As I say there, the tech industry is constantly evolving and dynamic. So having people that can adopt and can come up with kind of learn new skills is really key. Rapid technological advances require adaptability. Coming back to adaptability again, in terms of like technological advancements, I know the rise of AI, like large language models. I know we just had the AI kind of conference in the UK this week. So actually having that adaptability is really key. Having teams with diverse skills for innovation and problem solving. And something that we as a company try and do as well, our mission is to increase diversity in the tech sector. So getting people into tech roles, they're not from kind of the traditional, that's gone, like the computer science background from university straight into tech. But if we get new people into tech roles, they're bringing a wealth of new skills and diversity of thought. And that kind of helps businesses by kind of changing the dynamic, bringing new ways of looking, new ways of thinking. So I think that's a really key point. Okay, let me just have a quick look at the chat.
So we have two questions, John.
Okay, cool.
Great. Do you want me to read them out for you, or?
Yes. Okay. First one, so I can read it. So how does show this transferable skills to my CV? Sydney, I'm going to pick that one up in about 5 minutes when I get to the slide on that. So thank you for the question. And then more of a general question, but perhaps unusual, sorry it's long. I know everyone says be truthful in your CV, but then I've never seen anyone being completely truthful. So if you can provide an honest answer, how much and which skill should I blow up to make sure that I'm at least at the baseline of skill blow-ups in CVs? So when recruiters use the basing while evaluating skill, I don't come out at the bottom of the pile. Okay, again, I'll touch on that now. And then when we get to the CV, the kind of highlighting your skills, I'll touch on it a bit more. I'm going to touch on the first part, which is the kind of the truthful part. You should never lie on your CV, especially always with kind of your tech skills. So for example, if you're going to become a data analyst and you put that you know NumPy on your CV, I'm not a data analyst, so I think I've got that right. But if you put you know NumPy on your CV and then you get into the interview, they're going to ask you how you've used NumPy. If you've never used it, it's going to become apparent really quickly. So in terms of the hard skills, like never ever lie, be truthful, what you can and can't do. If you get to the interview and then they ask you about kind of some of those skills, you can always say, I don't know that, but like I could do X, Y, Z to learn it. When it comes to the transferable skills, most of the ones that I've already touched on, you can probably give an example of when you've been adaptable, when you communicated well, when you've solved problems from some point in your life. But it's about matching the skills on the job description to what's on your CV, and that's how you kind of get through to kind of the human and get to the shortlisting bit. But again, I'll kind of touch upon that a bit later when we get to things. So I think, yeah, hopefully that's kind of answered the first part. Okay. Move to the next slide. So the benefits of tech force. So if you've got a versatile workforce, lots of people kind of from non-traditional tech backgrounds, they've got kind of real life experience from other places, other industries, people from hospitality, teaching, NHS, health, all of those kind of things. They're bringing kind of a lot of skills that can adapt to various roles, and that kind of helps to reduce the need for frequent hiring because you've got a workforce that can adapt. It increases innovation, as I said in the last slide, just touched on there. Like the more you open up your workforce to different ideas, the more innovative it's going to be. If you've just got a homogenous workforce, which has kind of been the case sometimes in kind of tech roles, traditionally, everyone's almost got the same like think speak, as it were. So everyone thinks the same. Whereas if you've got a kind of really nice, diverse workforce, a lot of background from different skill sets, it increases innovation. You also then get effective communication across teams. So, like I said at the very beginning, like communicating is one of the kind of top transferable skills. If you communicate well across teams, with clients, and kind of just in general, and that helps kind of drive better project management, smooth project management. All of those kind of things can come from better communication. And with all of that, if you come in at a junior level, like I said, they've hired you for your transferable skills and your also baseline tech skills, but they're then investing in you heavily to train you up to be like a junior, a senior developer, a senior data analyst, senior business analyst, those kind of things. You're going to feel valued as an employee, which benefits companies because they know you feel valued. You're going to stay more likely to stay with them. That decreases their cost efficiencies because they don't have to keep hiring people. So yeah, I think they're kind of the main benefits, and obviously cost efficiency is on there as well because that's kind of a key one. Excuse me. Now we come to kind of identifying your own transferable skills. So, for example, you've decided that you want to become a data analyst. You're not sure your skill set aligns with that. So what's the first step to kind of finding out what skills data analyst needs? What I'd recommend is job searching. You can use LinkedIn, Indeed, any of those kind of job platforms. Get a number of junior roles, and then look through the keywords. So pull out the keywords for what people are looking for in terms of transferable skills. We kind of know that the sort of the tech skills that you will either have or you don't, but pull out the kind of the keywords. You can use something like ChatGPT, put the job descriptions into ChatGPT. Please give me the keywords. It'll give you a very clear list of what the keywords are. Get 4 or 5 of those, and then kind of align which the key transferable skills that keep popping up. Once you've done that, where do you sit with those skills? Where do your professional, academic, or personal skills align with the job descriptions? And again, remember, so it's stuff like sports, volunteering, all of those different things that kind of feed into those transferable skills. Sorry, it's just skipping ahead when I don't want it to. Then kind of reflect on your current role. What skills being asked for do you already possess? So now we're starting to build up an idea of what skills we've got, what skills companies need, and what skills we have. So then you start to get that list. Now what you can do is identify your own 10 soft skills. So we've looked at some job descriptions. Now I'm going to write a list of the 10 soft skills that I think I possess. For each of those skills, note down a way that you've used that skill. And that can be, again, from anything, wherever you've used that skill. From the 10, identify the 5 most impactful skills. Then for those 5, note down the key achievements. And that can be more than one achievement. So, if you've communicated or been adaptable, either of them could kind of write down the key achievements. It's going to change in a minute, so I'll flip it back. And once you've done that, you then rank them from most to least impactful. Now what you've got is a really good list of 5 key soft skills, how you've used them, what you've used them for, and what the impact of those skills were. And then you've also got a bit of a wider list of when you've used those skills. So then when we're coming to starting to do stuff like CV writing, you've now got those skills, and you can start thinking about how you highlight them onto your CV. Just going to check. There's a comment. Okay, perfect. All good. It's not a question. Okay. So then showcasing your transferable skills. So we've identified what our transferable skills are. How are you going to show them off? So the first place, obviously, the first stage is the job application. So on your CV and cover letter. Now, some people already know this, some people don't. Like when you apply, most of the time when you apply to big companies or through kind of like recruitment websites and stuff, your CV will go through what's called an applicant tracking system, and that scans for keywords. The more hits it gets for those keywords, the more likely you get through the applicant tracking system to a human set of eyes. So that's why it's really important to highlight your skills, not just your transferable skills, but any skills, any of those keywords throughout the CV. So in your summary, your profile, if possible, if it's got teamwork in the profile, in the job description, try and mention the time you've worked in the team in the summary, then in your list of skills, and then in your previous job history, list teamwork in there as well and how you've used it during that. And that kind of gives you more chance to get through that applicant tracking system and to be shortlisted. So it's really key to kind of highlight those on there, those skills. Now your CV is kind of what you can do, and then your cover letter shouldn't be, it's kind of a mirror, not a mirror, a reflection, a companion, sorry, to your CV. Your cover letter, CV is what you can do. Your cover letter is how you've used it. So on your CV, you might have said like leadership. Then on your cover letter, you can give a really clear example of when you've led a team or when you've been in a leadership position. And you can use the ones that we've just looked at, those kind of that skills that we just said, those 5 skills. You can use those examples. So we've already kind of done that process. When then you're looking at like portfolios of work, again, if you're like working in data or front-end development or those kind of tech roles, it's really key to have a portfolio of work so people can go and examine your work. But also then, if you say your one of your skills is you're creative, if I then go and look at your portfolio of work, I can see, okay, so you presented this data in a really creative way. Oh, you've been really creative with that website. Or, you kind of said that your written communication is one of your strong points. Go onto your portfolio and I can see how you've done it there. Then we get to, excuse me, got a bit of a cough. When we get to the interview scenario, so obviously your cover letter, CV, that's to get you into the interview, and then the interview. How are you going to highlight those transferable skills in the interview? Now, transferable skills are probably going to come from, sorry about that, those, the kind of behavioral and situational questions. So the kind of questions you get asked that are like, can you tell me about a time you worked in a team? What was your role in the team? Can you tell me a time when you solved a problem? What was the outcome of that? So they're kind of the situational behavioral questions. And when you're answering those ones, you've got that list from before, those five kind of impactful skills. So we kind of already know that. And when you're going through the job description prior to interview, you can also draw out those keywords for the transferable skills that you need to kind of think about answering the questions for. So when you are being asked those questions, those kind of behavioral situational questions, you can use what's called the STAR technique. Some of you might be familiar with this, some not, but it's situation, task, action, result. It's just a methodology, that's correct pronouncing, of discussing, like gives you kind of a model to answer those questions. So you've got kind of a clear structure. So the situation, so, if you get asked, for example, can you tell me about time that you're adaptable? then you might kind of say, okay, so the situation is I was working kind of in a warehouse and I needed to previous job experience a sudden increase in demand, and I had to for our products. So that's the situation. Then you're looking at the task. I needed to adapt quickly to meet the demands, the sudden increase in demand. Situation, task. The action. I took the initiative to reprioritize my workload, met with colleagues to understand what they were working on, and we were all on the same page. And that meant we were easily able to switch responsibilities if need be. The result of that, my adaptability meant that the team was able to achieve the goals and collaborate to manage our workload. So perfect. You've got kind of a clear structure answer. Then for kind of a bonus, link it back to the job that you're applying for. So, okay, so you answered using the STAR method. And I know that in this role, it's a fast-paced environment, so I need to be adaptable, be able to pick up new skills as I go. Perfect. Really good answer for an interview. The other method you can use is CAR, which is context, action, result. It's very similar, but again, I think it's just it helps when you're answering those kind of questions because you've got the answer kind of already in your head. And because you've done the work where you've looked at your 5 most impactful skills, it's a really kind of easy method to use. Okay, I can't see any questions yet, so we'll move to the next bit. So what we're going to look at now is kind of these skills in action a little bit. So this first slide here is transferable skills for data roles. So these are the kind of the main transferable skills that people want if you want to be a data analyst. So complex problem solving skills, self-explanatory, creative and critical thinking skills, interpersonal and written communication skills, active listening skills, awareness, empathy, and emotional intelligence, ability to meet deadlines, and ability to work in a team. So a lot of those are kind of we already touched on, but active listening is obviously part of communication. So they're the kind of skills that employers want. Just a little case study. So Jenny was one of our ex-learners. She was working in Asda in the home delivery section, so getting people shopping for home delivery, online shopping. She did a data analyst with SQL and Power BI course with us. After she completed, she secured a role working as a bureau analyst. And I spoke to her recently. She's got a promotion within 6 months of starting the role. So what are her transferable skills to pivot into being a data analyst? So first one there, problem solving. If anyone's worked in customer service or in a supermarket, a lot of your time is dealing with problems of customers. I can't find this, can't buy it, or like stock isn't where it's supposed to be. Like really key, like problem solving. So you can kind of transfer that to data analysts. Communication, again, communicating daily with people, and you have to have a really good communication skills to kind of survive in that world. Time management, working to deadlines, as we just saw, ability to work to deadlines is a really key skill that data analysts want. Being able to get stuff where it needs to be on time. And then the last one is adaptability. And again, as we saw, that's a really key one. So yeah, just a kind of a little highlight of how you can, whatever role you can identify your transferable skills and use those to kind of move into a different role. So when you come to a business analyst, obviously business analysts are there to kind of examine what's going on in business and propose solutions for what's going on. So problem solving and analytical thinking is really key. Facilitation and stakeholder management, written and verbal communication skills, and highly organized. So a little case study to highlight this as well. So another learner that came on one of our business analyst courses, Tom, he was working in the police force and he was working as a detective. And through some of the meetings I had with him, he said that actually prior to coming on the course, he was really disillusioned with his job. And what he actually did was he sat down and listed out his transferable skills and then looked at where they'd fit. So he came up with actually working as a business analyst would be a really good fit for the skills he already had. So, if you're working as a police detective, problem solving, requirements gathering, it's pretty much your bread and butter of being a policeman. Analytical thinking, trying to work out why something's as it is. Stakeholder management, again, a really key thing for a BA and a police detective. And then communication skills, you're constantly having to communicate really well with people across a range of settings. Perfect. Okay. Well, let's skip ahead. Should be here now. Time for questions. So any questions on what I presented think there might be one in the chat. Okay, yeah. Okay, so Sangeeta is asking, should part-time jobs be mentioned in the CV as well, and the transferable skills applied for them as well? Is there a different section in the CV for transferable skills, or include the keywords in the previous work experience? So yeah, part-time jobs should be included. I think the one people don't like to see gaps on CVs. It's getting less and less of a thing. But you know, for example, I took like 2.5 years off when my kids were born and my wife went back to work, and I was working part-time in a restaurant whilst I was looking after children. So that's on my CV just to kind of cover that gap. But also, there's loads of transferable skills that you get from working part-time as well. So, you know, I think that's it should be on there because it shows continuity of employment. Transferable skills, yeah. So any transferable skills you get from them, include them on there. What I would say is when you're looking at a job description in the CV, again, like I said before, you want to match as much as possible the skills that you've got to the job description. So match them as much as possible. And then if you've got others that you think add value to the role, add them. I wouldn't necessarily list every single soft skill that your transferable skill you have. But if you think if you match pretty much job description, kind of 90, 75%, and then you've got other kind of transferable skills that you think would add value to that role, then yeah, add them on there. And is there a different section in the CV for transferable skills, or include the keywords in the previous work experience? For me, the way I like to see skills section, it's kind of a blend of your kind of tech skills and soft skills together. So just one skills section, but you would then mention those soft skills again in like your work history. So, you know, when you've used them in different roles, because the way the applicant tracking system works is it scans for keywords. So the more it reads like communication, for example. So if you've got communication in your summary skills section, and then in your last 2 work experiences, it will kind of pick those up, and then you have more chance to kind of go through to the next stage. Hope that answers that. Okay. Brilliant. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, good. So Lee saying cater the CV to a specific job role, and then and with the covering letter explain how and when you use the skills. Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So you cater the CV to a specific job role, and the covering letter should also be tailored to each role. So you shouldn't have just a generic CV, but you can expand on some of those skills. So the most relevant skills that you think, would be for that role, and put those onto your cover letter and expand when you've used them. Cool. Okay, so let me skip back a bit.
John, sorry, I think there is 2 more questions. What skills are the employers looking for? Okay.
Yeah, so I was just going to skip back to where I've got that on the slide.
No worries.
Cool. There's probably a quicker way to do this, everyone. Okay, cool. So, Andrea, so these are kind of, so this is from this year. This was like a report, that IT skills gap report. So these are the kind of skills, soft skills that employers are currently looking for: problem solving, adaptability, teamwork, communication, and leadership. So they're the kind of where people identified, the respondents to this survey identified a skills gap. I hope that answers that. Are professional CV writers a worthwhile investment? That is a personal choice. I can't say yes or no. I think probably you could Google and find a wealth of experience of people saying yes, they're the best thing ever, and a lot of people saying it wasn't worth the time. Yeah, I think what I would say on that is if you find a good recruitment company, a good recruiter, then they will help you with your CV and work with you to get your CV in line, and they won't charge you for it because they want to get you into a job role. So I'd probably look at that avenue find kind of a good recruitment company that will invest in you rather than going to the professional CV writing class. Not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with professional CV writers. I just think obviously it's finance, but you know, if you hire a professional CV writer and get a job within a certain amount of time, then yeah, it might be worthwhile. I know that's not a clear answer, so I apologize. Do we put projects we've worked on our CVs or just portfolios? Yeah, if you can put the portfolio link, and you can also put projects. So I think you can have a section underneath your skills section, projects, so what you've done, what tools you've used, and a link to that project. And again, it kind of helps people go in and see what your actual kind of tech work is like. So, you know, if you're a developer, they can go and look at your project and see what your skills are like. Recommended sample showcase transferable skills as well. So do you have a sample CV or recommended sample showcasing transferable skills for a tech role? We can kind of send out some. I think we probably send out some samples. I don't have them to hand them. I've got some which I haven't have them to hand at the moment. But like I think for me, like a CV, again online, there's kind of lots and lots of debate about what a CV should be like. For me, a CV should kind of just be clearly outlined. You should have your profile, skills section, work history going from your most recent role back, and then education, just your most recent education, or your highest education, or anything that's relevant. So if you've done like a skills bootcamp, that would be on your CV, but just clear and concise. And again, one thing that I would avoid doing is like a 2-column CV, which is sometimes what I see because applicant tracking systems struggle to read them. So if you've got a two column CV, that might be the reason that you're not getting places. At the moment, I currently upskilling, reskilling in a Python and cybersecurity training. Okay, cool.
John, sorry not to break you.
Yeah.
So Leroy, just to answer your question quickly, there's no break in this session. It's just about 45 minutes to an hour. We're almost at the end. We're just now taking questions. So the floor is open to anyone who have questions that they want to ask. So please feel free to raise your hands or unmute yourself. You can also do that, or if you want to continue to put them in the chats, that would be good as well. Yeah, thank you.
Cool. No worries. I mean, I'm just curating the questions myself. Is that all right?
Yes, that's good, John. No worries at all. That's good. Continue like that. That's good. Oh, there's a hand up actually. So when you're ready.
Okay, cool. Let me just take Lee's question and then I'll get to Adedeji. Okay, so is there a big skills gap in cyber? I see a lot of ads publications dealing with a massive skills gap. Cyber community have less apprenticeship and junior openings. I think there is a disconnect, Lee, with and I have seen this on LinkedIn. I'm not a cyber expert, but I think there's a bit of disconnect within the cyber world of not taking juniors on, or like there's less roles in kind of for juniors. Whereas, I mean, I think I saw something the other day that in 5 years' time, if they're not taking on juniors, when senior people start leaving, there's going to be a big problem because there's going to be a big kind of gap in the market. So yeah. Like I say, I'm not a kind of cyber expert, but I think that is kind of anecdotally, I think there is a bit of an issue with taking on junior and apprenticeship roles.
Yep.
Okay, so someone had a question. Someone had their hand up. Yes, Adedeji. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. So it's just it's a quick question that has been bothering me for a while now, because lately I've been applying for jobs through Glassdoor.
Yeah.
And I noticed that, you know, when it comes to like when it says like easy apply, I see somewhere it says it's not necessary for you to like upload a cover letter. But what I want to ask is it advisable for me to always add a cover letter with my CV when I'm applying for a job?
So my thoughts on that are, if it says we don't want a cover letter, like you don't need to send a cover letter, I wouldn't send one. If it says optional, I would always send one in. The reason for that being is if I've got 2 applicants, their CVs, they've both got the skills, both similar experience, but you've sent in a cover letter, that cover letter gives me more of a flavor of who you are as a person and what you can do. and I'm more likely to shortlist you for interview because I can see more of you, if that makes sense. Whereas the person that has just sent the CV, I don't really know how they've kind of how they've used those skills to a degree. So if it's optional, personally, I'd always send it in. There's definitely no harm in sending it in. And I think for me, if I was a hiring manager, I would make the decision that I would probably go for the person that sent in the cover letter.
Thank you. That's ideal. Thank you.
No worries at all. Okay, so another question. Do we actually need to include hobbies and interests? I would say no. If you are fresh out of college or university and you've never had any work experience and you are looking for stuff to put on your CV, I would probably include hobbies and interests. Having said that, don't include interests that are passive interests. So, for example, I see this quite a lot again. I like watching football. I mean, so does kind of 50 other million people in the UK. It's not really a hobby or an interest. It's just, I mean, it's an interest, but it's not a hobby. What you put instead is I play regularly for a local football team and I'm the captain or something along those lines. I don't even like football, but do you see what I mean? So it's not a passive interest. It's something you're actually doing. And that, again, it's only if you are kind of, you don't have work experience. Again, from my perspective, I always like a CV covers 2 pages. And if you don't have kind of work experience to fill those 2 pages, yeah, you might want to include your hobbies and interests. If you have read some kind of CV, people that say, oh, they like to see like hobbies and interests because it gives them a kind of a more of a flavor of the candidate. For me, I don't think it's necessary. But again, think about the role you're applying for and how your hobbies and interests align with that role if you want to include them. But for me, I'd say it's a no. Okay, Tony, you have a question?
Hi, John. Thanks for all this. Just from, it's more specific in my situation. I was employed for like 18 years and then I spent maybe 5 years doing my own thing. A lot of exploring, and then I launched a business, but it didn't work out. So it's very challenging to get back in, it seems. People don't really look at that, even though I've tried to, you know, obviously bring out the skills that you gain when you run your own business. Are there any recommendations for people in my situations? Like, how is there a specific way to word the CV or anything, any advice you can give?
I think for me, it would just the main thing would be, again, like trying to align what's on the job description with the skills that you have from running the business. Because obviously, even like you say, as it worked, like all of those skills that you built up in that business, like resilience, adaptability, all of those are kind of key skills that people do want. Right. So just making sure that your skills on your CV align with what's on the job description. Because quite often, as I said, if you're going through the applicant tracking system, it's a AI program. Basically, it's not looking for kind of, okay, so I can see Tony ran his own business for 5 years, and so it's just searching for those keywords, and it makes a decision based on that. So that's why it's really key to optimize it with as many of those keywords as possible, and then that gets you through. On that as well, what I would suggest, and I'd suggest this to everyone, when you're seeing jobs that you apply for, if you're seeing them advertised on like LinkedIn or like one of the big kind of recruitment companies, Indeed and stuff, see if you can find the job on the company's website and apply directly to the company, because then you're skipping a couple of steps. So actually, it might be that you're going straight to a human that can actually look at, okay, I can see Tony's running his own business. A lot of those skills are the skills that we need, and it just kind of skips those processes.
Okay. And thanks for that. That makes a lot of sense, actually. And also, the keywords, are they the generic ones that all jobs looking for, or do we change it and we cater it for the specific job description?
So you would cater it for the job description. So again, like I think one thing that sometimes people fall foul of is just one CV for every application, and the problem with that is people kind of, once you get to the kind of humans, they kind of, okay, I can see that this isn't necessarily written to the job description, or they haven't looked into what we do as a company. And so you might fall down on that. So yeah, it should always be tailored. Once you get like a good baseline solid CV, it's really easy just to tweak it for each job description. So I know this is still playing in the background. I don't know why. Does that make sense? So you can just you've got that kind of good template, and then you can kind of just craft it from there. So what kind of people that come on my course, I'll say kind of get your CV. It's like a data analyst CV, give you a job description to write it to. And then the next time you apply for a job, it's just looking at those keywords and switching them around.
Right.
And also, yeah, if you can, do a bit of research into the company and then try and mirror some of the language they use on the CV, those kind of things as well.
Because I always used to try to tailor it in the cover letter. Because one of the concerns I had is that we upload our CVs in many different places, like LinkedIn, Indeed, etc. So if you sent a company a version of a CV tailored to them, they're probably going to check you out on LinkedIn and maybe see like a slightly different version. Is that something that works against us? Or is it like just they understand that's?
I mean, it shouldn't work against you. They should, like any hiring manager or should kind of be like, okay, so that's the LinkedIn profile separate, and they understand that that's kind of your LinkedIn or CV is the one that you've got there. But actually, for me, if I was the hiring manager, I'd look at the CV that you've sent and be, okay, I can see that you've taken the time to adapt it to this role, so I'm more likely to kind of make a decision based on that.
Okay, lovely. Thanks a lot,
They
John.
do that, though, to be fair. They do actually do that. In some cases, they've actually made sure that it's tailored against what actually is real and not real. Yeah, they do it in some cases.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Leroy. Okay, so does Purple Beard advertise jobs for IT apprenticeships? Kristen, do you want to jump in on that? I mean, we have some apprenticeships, but
yes, Jen, I can add to that for sure. Whenever we do have job roles available in whichever department, IT, sales, we do advertise for those. Apprenticeships as well. We work with employers who do recruit apprentices. So whenever we have those opportunities available, we do share them. If you sign up to our newsletters, or if you registered with us, for example, you registered for this course, we most likely will send out whatever opportunities we have to all our community members for sure. So I hope that answered that question. Francis, have a question as well.
Okay, cool. What the main difference between resume and CV? I think resume is just one. So the main difference is CV is for the UK, and most of the world also calls it a resume. That's the main difference. I think, yeah, that's it. Does anyone know what CV stands for? Curriculum vitae. Anyone know what it actually stands for? Bonus points if anyone does.
Curriculum vitae.
Yeah, but what does curriculum vitae mean? Anyone know Latin?
It's to do with your covering letter.
No,
To do with your resume. It's to do about you. It's about you, your career, what you've done, your achievements.
Yeah, good guess. So what the words curriculum vitae mean is river of life. There you go. Bonus fact for everyone.